Hello, Carrie. So it's time for us to begin our official program. So just briefly, I want to thank everybody for coming out here with your good spirits. I know some of you even managed to come here all the way from the far reaches of Rhode Island. There are people here from Newport, from Westerly. It's amazing. If any of you, can't make the drive home and have to stay over, just let me know. So, yes, thanks for coming. Enjoy the food. And I really want to recommend everybody meet people you don't know, because I'm sure, I don't know a lot of you. And I hope to meet you all. So, network, eat and drink, and we have the most amazing set of raffle prizes, from dirt to kayak lessons to water therapy at the Bodie Spa and 9 other things. So you should really buy raffle tickets and put them in the jar for the stuff you want. I think that's it, and I'm going to pass it over to Caitlin.
Thanks everyone for being here. What a beautiful day we're having. I have been serving as co-president of Carry with Jeff since 2 years ago, when Justin, who was our long-serving founder and president, moved on. And I remember Justin approached me about this. I was pregnant. I'm like, oh gosh, can I really take this on? But Jeff and I agreed to do it together. And it's been an incredible, incredible 2 years, and a journey that will carry on. No pun intended. We've really seen our organization grow. We've topped over 4,000 members this year. We've just learned that we received a grant from the Rhode Island Foundation, pretty sizable. Our first time trying for that, and their first time having climate priorities. So we're really excited about that. And people are fired up. We need all our efforts now, and I'm so glad that you all are here so we can be in community together, have fun, and also fight for the change we want to see. And within my family, we are deciding, we have a sabbatical year, and we're actually going to South America for about 10 months. So we'll be in Bogota, Colombia. And so I'm stepping back from being the co-president. And Jeff is our executive director, and we'll have some administrative points about that. So really bittersweet. We're excited for our 4 and 1.5-year-old to learn Spanish, and candidly to miss 10 months of this policy environment. But we will be back. We're keeping our house, and we'll be back in Providence after that. That's for sure when tenure is in the picture. So I'll be fighting with you guys for many years to come after this pause. But it's been so meaningful to me to have joined Carry and have been in the leadership. And I just thank the other officers and members for your faith in me. And working with Jeff has been such a pleasure. Ambition is high. When example, we just had another event a couple weeks ago, the funeral for all our 19 climate bills that didn't pass. So he has such a mission, and it's like he pulls it off. So let's hear it for Jeff. Yeah, so we're so lucky to have him as our first executive director. And for me personally, the experience, all the learning I've had, meeting so many wonderful people in our small state, we can really get to know. We're so tight-knit, and you see the same people, and I just love that. My town in Oregon was about 14,000 growing up, so I love a small feel. And I was able, through having this role, to be working now as my paid work in climate change, which I wasn't doing before. So I think having this on the resume, allowed me to do that. So I'm going to continue dedicating myself to that. So I just want to thank Carrie. I'll be in South America. If anyone is passing through, definitely hit me up, and then I'll be returning. But with that, we are going to have a head of state who will be our president. So I think Jeff is doing the election. Yeah? Yes.
But just stay there for a minute.
Okay.
I just want to thank Caitlin for her 2 years, and what a pleasure it was to, co-pilot this rickety, crazy, creative, wonderful vessel that we called Carrie. Her dedication that she showed up despite, in the last 2 years, she produced a human being, took care of her 2 kids, got her climate career going, and still found time to share this lead position. So we're definitely going to miss her passion, her way with words, her stage presence. I needed to put on a robe to compete a couple weeks ago. And luckily Bogota is only like 1 hour off in time zone, so it'll be easy to reach out to her. We have a few things of appreciation.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you.
Okay. So now one small piece of business. So Caitlin was president of our board of directors, and so she's stepping down from that official duty. So we've nominated Denise Terrell over there waving behind the Rhodes. Now it's time for election. Everybody in favor of Denise being president of Carrie's board of directors, say aye. Aye. Okay, everybody in opposition, say nay. I think you're elected, Denise. So, Diane.
What? We got do me and Will and...
You're going to introduce Alana.
Oh, okay. We don't have to get elected.
No, just for him.
Okay. All right.
It's a 3-year. You realize it's a 3-year term.
Hello.
Hey, Diane.
So now we're going to get started with the speakers portion of our program. And it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, State Senator Alana DiMario. Yay. And I'm proud to say that she is my senator. She's serving her 3rd term in the Senate, representing coastal North Kingstown and all of Narragansett and New Shoreham. Senator DiMario currently serves on the Finance Committee, the Environment and Agriculture Committee, and the Housing and Municipal Government Committee, as well as the Study Commission to evaluate renewable energy programs, the Study Commission to evaluate the feasibility of a medical school at URI, and she's the co-chair of the Permanent Joint Legislative Commission on Child Care and Early Childhood Education. And Senator DiMario really has the credentials, especially around child care and early childhood education, because her day job is as a licensed mental health counselor. And she lives in Narragansett with her husband and 3 children. So she's a mom, and she knows about human development and human interaction and behavior. Senator DiMario also successfully passed legislation addressing solar siting, creating incentive programs for solar development on preferred sites, also around coastal resiliency measures, protection against PFAS contamination, and reduction of textile waste. Senator DiMario has been a steadfast ally to Carrie, has made time to come to our politics team meeting and enlighten us on what's going on in the legislature. And we are just so happy to have her knowledge, her expertise, and her commitment as an ally to Carrie. So let's welcome Senator DeMario.
All right, let's see. Can I take this out and move while I talk? Yes. All right, great. Fantastic. Hi. First of all, I have the privilege of being the first speaker, and so I just want to take a minute to thank our hosts, Jeff and Sarah, for hosting us in this wonderful spot. Thank you so much. If I'm going to leave Narragansett on a beautiful July Saturday, this is the type of place I want to be, so thank you. I also just want to thank Carrie for all of the work that you all do so consistently to come up to the State House and host different types of events and organize people to be able to advocate for the things that are so important regarding environmental issues. So thank you all for the work that you all do. As Diane mentioned, I am currently in my third term in the Senate, and so I've had the privilege of meeting many of you as you've come up to testify in front of the Environment and Agriculture Committee, in front of the Finance Committee, and also just in terms of your individual advocacy that you've done on different issues. However, I don't know all of you, and I don't know what issues you have come here today that are kind of on the top of your mind of what you want to know around what happened this last session in the General Assembly and what is going to happen next session from where I sit. So what I would like to do is to just start off by asking people to let me know what are the things that you came most curious to hear about today in terms of environmental issues in the General Assembly. Shout it out. Go ahead. Yes.
We have a problem with the contract for our solar, where Energy Sage says the group is really good and we love them, but the contract is really faulty. It doesn't show that we own the system. It just says an installation contract. And my husband here, who was an attorney at Hasbro for a number of years, wrote contracts.
Okay.
And he went out of his mind with this. I'd like to know if there's going to be a consumer advocate that's going to be for the state, for people, so that they can weed out these bad contracts. Because though the company is good and Energy Sage says they're good and they're A+ on Better Business,
Yeah.
they still have a lousy contract that doesn't protect the consumer.
So for those of you that may not have heard, the question is around the idea of consumer protections around, I'm assuming this is a residential solar issue. Okay, so we have done some pieces of legislation with the Department of Business Regulation around putting some more regulations for consumer protections on residential solar plans. That is probably something that I would love to grab you for a minute, or grab him for a minute. You're unwillingly volunteer to learn a little bit more about, because that is exactly the type of thing that I love coming to these types of events to figure out is what are the things that we need to be putting on our to-do list for next year. All right, so residential solar consumer protections. Okay, we'll talk more about that. Anybody else? What are you curious about hearing about today? Yeah, in the back.
A lot of the work I do is around how we do economic development in the state, and so much of our economic development works against climate justice. And so we're trying to figure out how we're going to get the Commerce Corporation to actually pay attention to climate justice rather than continuing to try to chase big corporations, that don't really help us.
So for those of you that may not have heard, the question is around aligning our climate goals and our environmental goals with economic development and the future of economic development in Rhode Island. And I think you hit on exactly one of the most important things there, which is figuring out who else in our government, in terms of entities, departments, quasi-publics, is not currently at the table to be having those conversations. Specifically, I'm thinking about, integration with the Executive Climate Change Coordinating Council. And we have made some steps in recent years to make sure that, for example, the Department of Education is sitting at the table at the EC4. So when we're talking about things like new school construction, environmental considerations are being integrated into that. We've made some steps in recent years to make sure that the Department of Labor and Training is sitting at the table with the EC4. So when we're talking about incentive programs for green jobs or development of different types of training programs, educational programs, that those efforts are being integrated with our environmental goals and with the people who are already working in that space also, so we're not, accidentally working in opposition with each other. And I think the idea of stepping up and making sure that commerce is more integrated into that is a really important one. We did pass a bill to make sure that there are considerations and people who are present on economic development boards within the Commerce Corporation to make sure that the things like coastal resiliency, sea level rise, different types of environmental considerations are integrated in that end. But I think that you bring up a really good point. So thank you. Take one more. Yeah.
Quick question. When climate-related legislation doesn't get passed in Rhode Island, is the problem that the majority of our elected politicians simply don't care, that we don't have enough numbers to pass legislation, or is the leadership blocking all of our efforts?
So that is a really complex question. Actually, I started my time here today having a pretty in-depth conversation about that type of process stuff. I would never say that it's as simple as, one person or a handful of people are blocking something. I think that there are a number of issues. One is that I will say we have a lot of competing priorities in the Senate. We are, and in the House, we are a part-time legislature. So as it was mentioned, I have a full-time job outside of my work in the Senate. Most of my colleagues do as well. Each session from January to June, we are considering about 1,000 different pieces of legislation. And there are a lot of different competing priorities there among legislators about what problems we're trying to fix. And so I think sometimes it just gets lost in the shuffle, meaning that whatever that priority is just is not elevated by enough voices within the General Assembly, kind of all prioritizing the same thing or all identifying the same key step as being next in terms of the priority list. And so then we run the risk of doing nothing because there's not consensus about what is the next right thing to be doing to be able to meet our state's environmental goals. So I do think that structurally, the way that the General Assembly operates is part of the problem. There are also sometimes hidden opposition that you might not be as apparent or you might not be aware of. And one of the things that I did kind of come on my to-do list to talk about today is the importance of paying attention to your municipal level governments when it comes to environmental issues. Because when you're thinking about certain things that we're trying to do at the state level, a lot of those mandates are going to trickle down to the cities and towns. And sometimes it's not as apparent what city and town governments, town council, city council members are for or against a certain thing or how that's being perceived by cities and towns until that opposition all of a sudden is up at the State House telling us our cities and towns can't possibly do this. And so understanding the kind of where your town and city sits in terms of some of these environmental considerations, I'll call out one issue in particular, which is the building decarbonization bill that was the focus of a lot of tension this past year and the year before. Cities and towns had some concerns about that, and I think that we could have done a better job of being able to allay some of their concerns, give them some of the facts and information that they needed about how that bill was going to affect them, to be able to remove some of that opposition and potentially get some support. And so one of the things that I would say is that when it comes to environmental issues, whether it's coastal resiliency, whether it's investments in transportation, greenhouse gas reduction, building decarbonization, getting our cities and towns on board to the extent of even asking them maybe to pass a resolution in support of a certain thing we're trying to do up at the State House can go a long way. So I think somewhat it's structural, somewhat it's like hidden opposition from places that we haven't thought to engage or talk to yet. And then sometimes it's budget. And so that's the third thing is that, we are in a period of time right now in Rhode Island where by the end of this calendar year, the Executive Climate Change Coordinating Council is going to have completed their 2025 plan that is going to give us the roadmap of what we need to do, what we need to implement in order to meet our Act on Climate goals. And we need to be realistic about the fact that that to-do list is going to come with a price tag. And we need to be ready to advocate fully for the necessity of making those investments in order to meet those goals. For the health and safety of Rhode Islanders, for the future of economic development in Rhode Island, we need to make sure that we are protecting our assets, that we are keeping our air and water clean, that we are doing everything that we can in order to meet those goals to preserve the quality of life for Rhode Islanders and meet the commitment that we have made. And so not being afraid to have that financial conversation and not being afraid to advocate fully for the idea that that is in fact how we want our tax dollars spent, that we do in fact support the idea of finding consistent revenue streams to be able to stand up those programs and make them come to fruition, is going to be one of the biggest tasks ahead of us next year. So local advocacy, financial investments, and also just making sure that we're kind of all coming together to prioritize the same thing, and that we're doing that kind of first things first prioritization is really important. So what else? What else do people want to hear about? Anything else you're curious about? I probably have 2 or 3 more minutes before I get the big hook. Yes.
Financial independence of RIPTA.
Financial independence of RIPTA. So the public transportation is a huge key piece of us being able to meet our Act on Climate goals. I will say, yeah. All right, let's give that a round of applause. Yes, absolutely. When you look at all of the data of where the biggest gains are to be made in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the transportation sector is the one that we continually leave on the table over and over again. I fully support the idea that we need to find consistent and adequate funding to not only maintain the public transportation system that we have, but to expand it in a significant way. And this is one of those issues where I feel like we can have both the environmental conversation of why it is so important that we're not a single car culture predominantly here in Rhode Island, especially down in places like my district where we are woefully underserved by public transportation, but also to make the economic argument that when you're thinking about attracting businesses to Rhode Island, when you're thinking about all of these investments we're making in the life sciences hub and trying to attract some of those businesses, when we're thinking about trying to keep some of the businesses that we have, workforces are looking for certain things. They want high quality education for their kids, for their workers to want to come here. They want housing that they can access. Also, especially in younger generations, they don't want to have to rely on being a single car household or having to drive everywhere they go. They're looking for public transportation. They're also looking for high quality, affordable childcare. So, when we're thinking about aligning goals and priorities and we're talking about economic development, there's no way that we can have that conversation without talking about a robust, sustainably funded program for RIPTA. And there are a lot of people that I work with in the General Assembly. All right, go ahead, yes, clap for RIPTA. I will take all the applause that I can on their behalf, because there's also, I think, a misperception about the idea that if we build out RIPTA more fully, what that utilization is going to look like. And I fully believe, I joke with my colleagues about this all the time, I believe in like the field of dreams theory of public transportation. Like if you build it, they will come. If you actually create, right, a public transportation system that gets people to where they need to be at the times that they need to do that, more and more people will use it. And that is absolutely an investment that I support making. And I am open to any and all suggestions of how we get there and do that. Maybe one more?
Yeah, so aside from building up RIPTA, what else are you doing in regards to reducing the amount of road traffic? Because to me, this isn't just an environmental issue, but also a road safety and pedestrian safety issue.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, I think that we focused for a little while, and I feel like our attention has waned a little bit from the idea of complete streets initiatives. So the idea that not only do we want to build up robust public transportation, we also want to make sure that our communities are accessible by foot and by bike in a meaningful and useful way. And we've had some great success with that in certain communities and taking certain initiatives. But I think that is something that we absolutely have to be doing more, especially in conjunction with our big push on housing development, because we want to make sure that people are living in a place where they can access public transportation, they can access things where they don't always have to use a car to go different places. And that is something that I fully support as well. So, and in closing, one of the things that I just do want to stress, and I know we're going to hear from the congressman who's going to talk a little bit more about this, is that we are once again back in a time where we are truly going to be reliant on state investments and state attention to make these things happen. There are not going to be federal dollars for greenhouse gas reduction. there is probably not going to be a ton of federal dollars for a lot of the things that we would like to be able to invest in. Where there are federal dollars, we're going to take them, we're going to use them. So solid waste reduction, some of those other types of things seem to be okay for now, and that's great, and we can use them to help further some of our environmental goals. But specifically when it comes to things regarding climate change, renewable energy, meeting our goals for the Act on Climate, we absolutely need to be ready, willing, and able to say we are going to take state dollars to invest in those things. And where we need to, we are going to find new revenue streams in order to make those happen and in order to reach those goals. And I am in full support of that. So I'm going to close it there. I'm going to be here. I'm happy to follow up with anybody who has any specific questions. My colleagues and I are going to be working quite a bit in this off session to understand what the changes at the federal level are going to mean in terms of what we need to be focusing on for environmental priorities. But the last thing that I want to say in closing is that as we are looking ahead toward the 2026 legislative session, as we are looking ahead toward the 2026 elections at all levels, from your municipal government on up through governor, I cannot stress enough how important it is to pay attention to the people that I would say are the workers. Pay attention to the people who are ready and willing and who have done the work to dig into what are the regulations that we need to be putting into place to protect against things from the federal level. What are the small changes that we need to make at the municipal level in order to be ready for the things that are coming down from the state? What are those kind of small policy changes that are going to mean an investment or a big difference in terms of outcomes? Because this is the current environment that we are going to be in for the foreseeable future, which is digging in, maintaining the progress that we have made, trying not to lose ground, and trying not to lose any more time toward meeting our goals. And it is going to be the people who are willing to dig in and do that hard, slow, difficult work that are going to be the ones to make it happen. So that's it. Thank you all for having me.
Thanks so much, Senator DeMario. That was great, so articulate. In terms of funding, I think next year we'll be pushing for the Make Polluters Pay bill and the millionaire's tax that could generate dedicated funds for some of these issues. I just got a list of cars that I've been told will be towed.
She just wants them moved. The police woman wants them moved.
They just need to be moved.
They just need to be moved. There's no threat of towing. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm not sure why, but they're probably parked next door, knowing that neighbor. So it includes my car, Sarah, which is definitely on our property, so I'm not sure why. A black Camry 549084, a blue Prius YX521, a white Prius, you know who our crowd is, ON174, a blue Camry 0Y930, and a gray RAV4 1N, I think S957, or it might be 5957. So sorry about that. If you can move your cars down, that would be great. I meant, when Diane came up, I just meant to mention that she's our secretary and is a volunteer and does a ton for us. I also want to point out Senator DeMario isn't the only state senator we have here today. Linda Ujafusa came all the way from Portsmouth to show her support. And now Christian Roseland, who leads our Yes to Win team that just does fantastic work, is going to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Jeff. And let's have a big round of applause for Jeff Mignot, our fabulous, fearless leader. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am Christian Roseland, the lead of the Climate Action Rhode Island Yes to Win campaign, and also a general purpose troublemaker. It's an honor to introduce our next speaker. He's a committed public servant who has definitely prioritized the climate crisis throughout his career. As state treasurer, he put our state on a path to fully divest from fossil fuels by 2030. He led in the creation of the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. He testified in favor of the Act on Climate, and those are only a few of his good deeds. I've actually been more impressed by what he's done since he's gone to Congress. In Congress, he has continued his climate work, including securing funds to protect our coastlines against the ravages of climate change. I've watched him in committee hearings with testimony before the U.S. House of Representatives, and I've noted that he showed a particular diligence, seriousness, and attention to detail that I frankly don't always hear from members of the U.S. Congress when questioning witnesses. But that's not the thing that impresses me the most. It was in the early days when Elon Musk's Doge was going around to federal agencies, illegally firing people, and raiding the private data of U.S. citizens. He was there with Congressman Maxwell Frost on the front lines, going to those buildings, demanding answers, and he only stopped when he was turned away by armed guards. That's the kind of leadership that we need in Washington, because right now our country is in serious trouble, okay? We have the attempt of an authoritarian takeover and the destruction of our democracy. And the big issue facing the Democratic Party, there's a big divide between those people who are willing to stand up and fight and those who are capitulating to this takeover. And I am very proud and honored to introduce someone who's in the former camp. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Congressman Seth Magaziner.
Well, thank you, Christian. That was very kind. Thank you to Jeff and Sarah for hosting us. This is beautiful. To Justin and Caitlin. This is like a small Rhode Island story, even though this wasn't in Rhode Island. I went to middle school with Caitlin's husband, and now our kids are the same age, and we're playing together today. To my colleagues in government, to Senator DeMario, Senator Ujifusa, who are both tremendous climate champions, Aaron Regenberg, a former state rep and climate champion who we'll be hearing from soon, and to all of you. The fact that you are here today shows me that you are in this fight, that you are not going away, that you are not going to let Donald Trump or Elon Musk or anyone else intimidate you out of this fight. We are in this to win it. And I am proud to be in this fight with you. And together we have accomplished a great deal. The very first thing I worked on as state treasurer 10 years ago was starting what is now the infrastructure bank that has invested in solar projects in particular, but also wind projects across the state. We worked together on passing the Act on Climate and other great pro-climate legislation at the state level. And now we are in a uniquely challenging time at the federal level. A time where, yes, under this would-be dictator, trying to be a dictator, Donald Trump, they are doing everything they can to turn back the progress that has been made on climate in their pursuit of eroding our democracy. But we have also seen over the last few years that strong action on climate can make a positive difference as well. So we've just gone through a unique period over the last few years where we just came out of an administration and a Democratic Congress that was the best administration and best Democratic Congress on climate in history. The passage of the Inflation Reduction Act was the biggest investment in clean energy in the history of the world. It vaulted us to become a global leader, as we should be, in the fight against climate change by investing in affordable clean energy. And we have seen progress, including here in Rhode Island, right off our shores with Revolution One and Vineyard Wind and the other offshore wind development that is on pace, even with everything the Trump administration is doing, on pace to be a meaningful percentage of Rhode Island's electricity supply by next year. And it is because we have seen how successful real action on climate can be that the Trump administration and the new Republican Congress is doing everything that they can to launch a full assault on that progress. Last week, they passed the really bad, really big, really ugly bill where they are attempting to undo all of those clean energy tax credits in order to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. They are doing things at the regulatory level. They are gutting agencies like NOAA and the EPA. They are doing everything they can. They're even ordering shuttered coal plants to reopen, coal plants that are not economically viable, that would be selling into the grid at a higher price than the market rate, just so that they can turn back the clock on climate progress. And so my message is this: we cannot lose hope. We cannot lose our motivation. We have to use this time not to panic, but to plan, because together, when we take the majority back, and we will, we need to not only go back to where we were this past January, but we need to be prepared to take the next step forward. So let me tell you, as a member of the Natural Resources Committee, I am deep in this, and I am arguing with my colleagues across the aisle every single day. They are pushing the same conspiracy theories that you all are familiar with already, that windmills cause cancer, that windmills kill whales, that windmills do this. That. By the way, I can't point to a single cancer death from windmills. I can point to a place called Cancer Alley in Louisiana, where there have been many cancer deaths caused by fossil fuel infrastructure. I can't point to a single whale death that has been attributed to offshore wind. I can point to lots of marine life carnage that has been caused by offshore oil and gas drilling. As last year, in order to educate my colleagues about offshore wind, last year I brought a group of my Democratic colleagues from the Natural Resources Committee to Rhode Island to come see the Block Island Wind Farm. We brought 7 members of the Natural Resources Committee, including AOC, including Jared Huffman, who is now the top Democrat on the Natural Resources Committee. And one of the reporters asked Jared Huffman, our top Democrat on natural resources now, asked him a question about some of these myths associated with offshore wind. And he said, he had a great line. He said, you know, I can't think of a single offshore wind spill, but I can think of lots of oil spills and the disasters that they have caused. So we are doing everything that we can in the Natural Resources Committee to push back against the false rhetoric, push back against their attempts to turn back the clock on progress. But also importantly, we need to plan for the next step in the future, because this era of Trumpism will pass. Not without a fight. It's going to take us continuing to fight and organize and work together, but we will get through it. And then we have got to have a plan for how to move forward. So one of the things that we're working on at the federal level is, all right, we're back in, we restore the tax credits, we restore the tax credits for electric vehicles, we restore the tax credits for clean energy development, all of that. We have to take the next step. Part of that means that we as an environmental community have to have some tough conversations about permitting for transmission of electricity. And this is not going to be easy. We're going to have some very difficult family conversations about the fact that if we want to continue to build clean energy at scale, we need to have power lines that can run from where the solar farms and the offshore wind developments and all of that is to where the people are. And here in Rhode Island, we had it kind of easy because we're a dense population right on the ocean, right by the windmills. But in other parts of the country, it's going to be more complicated than that. And so we need to start planning for that now. I have been part of a working group of Democratic members of the House where we are starting to suss through this permitting thing so that once we're back in the majority, we will be ready to go so that we can, again, take the next step forward. But as Senator DeMario said, a lot of the important work on the policy side that's going to be done in the next couple of years has to be at the state level as well. And not just going after the low-hanging fruit, but going after things like transportation and buildings that we know are major contributors to the climate crisis. And so, again, let's just keep digging in, doing the work. It's not always glamorous, it's not always fun, but the next generation depends on it. My kids, your grandkids, their lives depend on this work. And I am not ready to give up on them, and I know that you are not either. So listen, let's continue to fight together. Let's continue to be happy warriors, keep the faith, and do the hard work to make sure that tomorrow is better than today. Thank you very much, everybody.
Let's give it up for Rep. Magaziner again. It's so great. He took his time to come and talk to us. So we still have 2 cars that haven't moved, and there is a police officer out there. It's a black Toyota Camry, license plate 549084. That has to be somebody's. Okay, and a white Prius 0N174. Well, maybe those people are at a different gathering. So, okay. Next, I just want to introduce Justin Boyan, who most of you probably know. He was a founder of CARI, was the president of CARI for, I don't know, ages. 5 years. Is still really involved. Is a guy that I often go for to bounce ideas off, and sometimes he snickers, sometimes he doesn't. So anyway, here he is.
Here I am. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It's awesome. Jeff has been working fanatically to organize this picnic right on the heels of the State House event like a week ago. So it's great that you're here, and it's a beautiful day. Before introducing Aaron, I wanted to make sure if you didn't pick up the program booklet on the way in, it's a beautiful program booklet, and we worked really hard. Jeff and Avery and company worked really hard to make such a nice program booklet, and it also features businesses that are supporting our work by advertising in the booklet, so please take one and patronize those businesses. Patronize. So, Aaron Regenberg is someone who is known, I think, to everyone here as a leader in the state environmental movement, progressive movement, multiple term elected official in the state legislature, still won more elections than he lost, although the losses were painful, and what a difference we might have had if Dan McKee had not been lieutenant governor back in 2018. But we'll leave that aside and remember the great work he did in the state legislature for renewable energy, as well as paid sick leave and criminal justice reform and many other issues. He's now the director of the Climate Accountability Project at Public Citizen, a fantastic organization. He writes widely in the in the national press, including the New Republic, on his brilliant and deeply felt moral indignation at the state of the world that we're being unwillingly dragged into by the fascist movement in America. So on that, on that note, welcome Aaron Regenberg. And I wanted to make sure to credit him also for the founding of Climate Action Rhode Island. We grew out of Resist Hate Rhode Island, which was the resistance statewide to Trump Roman numeral 1 that Aaron really jump-started that statewide resistance and brought me into activism, and then really encouraged and advised CARI as we got off the ground in 2017. So I don't think we'd all be here today without him. So big hand for Aaron Regenberg.
Well, hello everyone. It is wonderful to be here with all of you today to support one of the most effective and certainly my favorite local organization here in Rhode Island. As Justin very generously mentioned, I'm a former state representative here in Rhode Island, and nowadays I'm working as a lawyer at Public Citizen, which, if I can brag for a moment, was the first organization to file a lawsuit against the Trump administration, and I still believe has the most ongoing cases seeking to block the regime. And I'm proud of what I'm doing now in the legal field, particularly the work that I'm leading to build a criminal case against big oil for their climate fraud and, as we would argue, racketeering. But I think it's really important that we remember that when it comes to winning real change, it's not going to be the lawyers and lawsuits that save us, right? It is going to be collective action by real community-based organizations like this one, right? It's going to be we the people coming together and making it happen. And I'll admit sometimes when I hear lines like that, they can feel kind of like platitudes, particularly given what we are up against today. But the thing is, we actually have a lot of cold, hard evidence right now that on a national level, our resistance efforts, at least in some ways, are working, right? Following the massive mobilizations that we've seen against Trump over the last month and a half, Trump's approval ratings have sunk to their lowest of this term. And I think it's worth noting that that swing has been particularly pronounced on the topics that have seen the most high-profile organizing and protesting, right? Donald Trump right now is significantly underwater on immigration, which has typically been his strongest issue, right? And that swing happened in the aftermath of the LA protests and the solidarity actions all around the country that they helped spark. And I'm stressing this because there is a whole and I think very unfortunately dominant wing of the Democratic Party, the party that is supposed to be functioning as the opposition to this fascist overreach, that I believe has this dynamic completely backwards, right? The Democratic establishment's theory of the case seems to be that public opinion is unchangeable, right? That an initially positive number for Trump, whether that's on immigration or it's on climate change, requires all of us to throw in the towel on that issue, right? There are top leaders of our party who've been arguing that we should not be protesting the illegal deportations of innocent people with no due process, right? That we should not be fighting the lethal build out of fossil fuel infrastructure that we know is empirically, objectively guaranteed to push us into tipping point scenarios that human civilization simply cannot survive. That we shouldn't be fighting these things because they are not winning issues for us right now. And so they are saying, in the words of one top Democratic consultant, that our strategy should be to roll over and play dead. Yeah, right? I mean, that's garbage advice, right? On multiple levels. But even just from a purely strategic, right, just from that perspective, the thing is, public opinion changes, right? It changes all the time. And it can be changed, right? If we pursue smart and strategic action. Taking strong stances and mobilizing our communities in opposition to the cruel and unconstitutional and civilizationally disastrous crimes against our people and our planet that this regime is committing. That is what brings attention to these really unpopular acts of tyranny and corruption, right? That is what raises the salience of these stories for the voting public. On the other hand, rolling over and playing dead, right, letting Trump's fossil fuel financed fascism slide by, as too many leaders have been advocating, that's how we get fossil fuel financed fascism, right? It's not that complicated. And that is why I think so many of us who care about defeating authoritarianism see our work not just as taking on Trump, it's also about clearing out the dead wood that caused us to lose to Trump in the first place. And it's crazy, but when I say dead wood, I'm actually speaking literally, right? Because Trump's big, ugly murder bill that's going to create the largest transfer of wealth from working people to millionaires and billionaires in American history, that is going to destroy our renewable energy industry, all for the behalf of Trump's big oil buddies, right? That is going to have the largest cuts in food assistance for hungry children ever, that is going to close nursing homes and hospitals all around the country, that is going to increase the funding of ICE by orders of magnitude, right? Creating all of the ingredients for a totalitarian police state at the very moment when we have a president and a Republican Party that really wants to run a totalitarian police state, right? This absolute monstrosity of a bill originally passed in the House of Representatives by a smaller margin than the number of Democratic reps who have died in office since Trump's term began. The gerontocracy of the Democratic Party is literally threatening our democracy. And honestly, this one is kind of hard for me to understand. Like, I genuinely can't wrap my head around why so many politicians are just grasping onto power through the very end. It's like, don't you want to spend some time with your grandkids? Like, I don't get it. But if our Democratic leadership, right, if people like Chuck Schumer and others will not go gentle into that dark night, we need to start giving them a push. Because I'm sorry, but as we said with Pass the Torch, the organization that I founded last summer to help push Biden out of the race, and I remember hearing the news that Biden was stepping aside at this picnic last year. It was right after we had taken the train up from DC, where we'd been organizing a rally at the White House calling on Biden to pass the torch. You know, as we said at that time, and it is more true today than ever, no one politician's ego matters more than our democracy and our planet, right?
Right.
For the British to effectively resist Adolf Hitler in World War II, they first had to replace Neville Chamberlain and the appeasement faction. For us to defeat Donald Trump today, we need to retire our side's rollover and play dead faction. And I think we need to bring back the party of FDR, right? A party that stands for something, right? A party that is willing to take on powerful interests, that fights for regular people and shows them that there is a better alternative than fascism. If we can do that, and it's a big if, but if we can do that, I believe in my heart that we can win this existential struggle that all of us are in. That we can save a livable future for us and our kids. You know, the playbook is there. We just need an opposition that has the fortitude and energy and guts to actually use it. And the truth is, we cannot and will not make that happen if we're not investing in the grassroots organizations that work to hold our leaders accountable on the fights that matter most. And I'm talking about organizations like Climate Action Rhode Island. Now, some of you who were here last year may remember the long and drawn out and arguably a little torturous fundraising process that I put us all through at our last picnic. And I was thinking today, I couldn't possibly do this to everyone again. But the truth is, Carrie's work that was important enough last year to justify such a hard ask is actually far more important this year, right? Because now, with a federal government that is being explicitly run by and for big oil, the only places that we can win real climate victories for the foreseeable future are going to be our states and our localities. And that means that if you care about climate, if you care about a livable future, if you care about maintaining organized human civilization on this planet for your kids and mine, who are over there right now, screaming. If you care about those things, then groups like Climate Action Rhode Island are literally our last line of defense and offense in the most important struggle that our human species has ever faced. And to do this work, they need our support. I know we all made a contribution to Carrie when we bought tickets or when we walked in today, which is wonderful. But this work needs and deserves even more help. And so I'm going to ask everyone here, and I mean every single one of us, if we can take out our phones right now. You can take out your phone, and when it's out, if you can raise it up in the air so I can see you. And I mean every single person. I want to see every single person. Raise your phone up in the air. And I can wait, and I'm gonna wait till every single person's phone is up in the air. Awesome, and okay, if you can join me in pulling up your web browser and going to world.350.org/Rhode Island /donate. So that's world.350.org/Rhode Island /donate. And if you could join me in making one more donation to help Carrie continue its great work fighting for the climate action we need here in Rhode Island for the coming year. I know that every single person here can afford to make some sort of donation, whether it's $5 extra or $100 extra or $250 or $500, or even when you think about the stakes of this fight, I think it's not so crazy if you can swing it, $1,000. And if you'll join me right now, I'm doing it too. Putting in my billing address. And if you're not doing this, it might be the case that the people next to you who are doing it are going to see that you're not doing it, and they will judge you. And we don't want that, right? And when you are ready to hit the Securely Contribute Now button, if you want to say and shout out, I did it! I did it! Woo!
All right, yes, done.
And I did it!
Repeat the site name again.
Sorry, it's world.350.org/Rhode Island /donate.
Spell out Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yes. Spelled out.
We did it.
Woo! Thank you.
Is there a donation jar in the front?
There is.
Because I'm old fashioned.
Yes, if anyone has checks,
Check.
that definitely works too.
What if we have
Or cash.
a box?
Have what?
I'll let Jeff answer that one.
If you have what?
Box, you know, checks.
Did it? Woo!
Right, all right. Great.
All right, thank you all so much for stepping up and contributing to this incredibly important work. It makes a huge, huge difference. And thanks to everyone at Climate Action Rhode Island for doing the work.
And I just wanted to make a quick announcement. Thanks, Aaron. Let's clap again for Aaron and all the work he's doing. Devoted and inspiring. I just wanted to announce about the Indivisible Rhode Island March tomorrow, which Carrie is co-sponsoring, and as part of continuing to show up against authoritarianism and oligarchy and oilocracy. 1 o'clock at City Hall in Providence is where Indivisible is gathering tomorrow for a march to the State House. It is expected to be big, and if you're there, it'll be even bigger. So, yeah, 1 p.m., City Hall, Kennedy Plaza.
Um, So yeah, thanks again, Aaron. And as Justin just, in announcing that, we're continuing our fight for the climate, but also are banding together with groups like Indivisible to fight for democracy also. Just a few things. I think we still have plenty of food and drinks. Now's time to buy more raffle tickets. That's one way we do small bore fundraising, and there's amazing things there. I also just want to call out a lot of other people that helped put this together, so that we couldn't have done this without a lot of help. I'm probably going to miss some people, but Avery, who's somewhere, who's our communications person, Shannon, who is our URI energy intern, Diane, Will and Joel did a ton, and they couldn't even be here today. Dave Brunetti is somewhere. And I probably missed some people. So, what's that? And the band, who we got through Avery. They're great. So we can hear more of the band and certainly talk to each other, buy raffle tickets, and maybe that's it. And thanks everybody for coming.